It was fine when they arrived, but the return trip is incredibly expensive. After the Spring Festival, flights from Sanya start at $1,400. Many people are complaining that it's too expensive. Flights were $200 or $300 when they arrived, but prices suddenly soared. Because of the high prices, many tourists are stranded. Flights to Beijing on February 24th are completely sold out, and flights to Shenzhen are nearly $1,400. Prices are expected to return to normal after March 3rd. Don't drive to Hainan. You queue from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. and finally board the ferry around 4 p.m. The ferry doesn't even move until after 7 p.m. and you still don't know when it'll arrive at the dock. Everyone's waiting here. Look how anxious everyone is in the cabin. So take my advice, don't come. Really, don't come. Last month, during the Chinese New Year, Hainan faced its first major Spring Festival travel rush after officially closing its borders, posing a severe challenge to the province's scheduling capabilities. It exposed problems such as low port throughput, chaotic vehicle crossing scheduling, and difficulties transporting new energy vehicles by sea. Those who experienced it complained. The scene was absolutely chaotic, and you could feel the clumsiness and disorder in the management of Hainan's new port. During the Chinese New Year holiday, many people traveled to Hainan Island for vacation, only to find that return airfares had skyrocketed towards the end of the holiday, with single-person tickets often costing between $1,400 and $3,000, catching many tourists who hadn't purchased return tickets off guard. Some tourists, despite having booked return tickets in advance, were informed that their original flights had been cancelled. As a result, more than 10,000 tourists were forced to stay on the island. According to data from the Civil Aviation Administration of China, economy-class tickets on popular direct flights from Sanya were sold out, with only a few business-class seats remaining, priced at $1,300 to $3,000. Due to the peak tourist season, prices also soared, with hotel prices more than doubling. Everything was fine when I arrived, but now I can't go back. Today is the 7th day of the Lunar New Year, and most people are starting to pack things and head back, but then I realized the sky has fallen. Actually, I've been constantly refreshing flight listings for the past few days, hoping for a miracle. But now I find that the only available flight back to Hangzhou from Sanya is a business class ticket at $1,400. Another option is to take the high-speed train from Sanya to Haikou, and then fly back to Hainan Airport, but again, only business class is available. If you can't accept these things, I strongly suggest you don't come to Sanya during the Spring Festival. First, airfares are ridiculously expensive, and high-speed rail tickets are extremely hard to find. Second, hotel prices change daily, increasing several times over during the Spring Festival. A Seaview hotel that normally costs $20 to $30 can cost over 1,000 RMB during the Spring Festival. Third, if you're driving to Sanya, you simply can't take the ferry without buying tickets in advance. Fourth, everywhere is packed with people. Places like Wujizhou Island, the South China Sea, Guanyin statue, and the beaches are incredibly crowded. If you want to take a picture, your camera will be filled with the backs of other people's heads. Fifth, the traffic jam at popular tourist spots are so bad they'll make you question your existence. Traffic jams can take at least 2 hours. I'm not kidding. Sanya is really easy to get into, but hard to get out of these days. Look at the airfares during peak return travel season. Direct flights from Sanya to Zhengzhou, Beijing, and Shanghai cost $1,300 each. Even a flight to Guangzhou costs $1,000. A family of 3 can easily spend 2 months' salary on one trip. I really feel sorry for you. And look at the ferry tickets. I checked on the ferry booking website, and from Shanghai Port to Shuwen Port, tickets for gasoline-powered vehicles won't be available until March 2nd, and tickets for new energy vehicles won't be available until March 8th. If you get stranded in Sanya, a hotel room will cost another $200 to $300 per night. So Sanya is going to be criticized again. The airport and ferry terminals are chaotic. I sincerely hope that Sanya's transportation system can be improved to match the development of this free trade port. The blogger said that on the 3rd day of the Lunar New Year, he and his wife, his mother-in-law, and their 4 children, a group of 7, embarked on a spontaneous trip. They drove from Guilin to Haikou and Sanya in Hainan, and then on to Beihai. After the whole trip, he summed it up in 4 words: spending money to get tired. What hurt me the most was the food. In Guilin, a bowl of rice noodles, about 100 grams, cost less than $1. but in Sanya, a serving cost $3. Our family of 3 adults and 4 children spent $17 on breakfast alone. Lunch and dinner were even more outrageous. A few dishes would easily cost $80 per meal. We were ripped off once with seafood. At a seafood restaurant in Sanya, we clearly ordered 5 seafood dishes, which were priced at $120 on the menu, but the bill came back to $210. The blogger said he was so angry he almost argued with his boss, but his wife pulled him back and whispered to him to let it go. In the end, they could only accept their bad luck. That feeling of being filled with resentment and having nowhere to vent is something only those who have experienced it can understand. This blogger is a native of Hainan and works in mainland China. Every year during the Spring Festival, he goes home to reunite with his family, but each trip home and departure is exceptionally difficult. The roads are terribly congested and cars can't move. He said he goes through this ordeal every year and it's truly frustrating. Every year we complain, yet so many people still come. Now, during the holidays, it's incredibly painful and difficult for us migrant workers on the island to go home for the Spring Festival. The past 2 years were okay. Tickets for gasoline-powered cars were generally easy to buy. This year is even worse. I checked tickets to enter the island before the holiday and leave after, and all gasoline-powered and new energy vehicle tickets are sold out. I can't even buy tickets. Honestly, for friends from the mainland, if you want to travel to Hainan Island during holidays and want a good experience, I recommend 2 options. The blogger says the first scenario is that if your budget allows, you can fly directly to Hainan, rent a car at the airport, and save time and effort. The second scenario is if you've already driven to Guangdong, but it's best to avoid taking the ferry with your car during holidays. The experience will be terrible. Normally, the ferry journey takes about 6 hours, including queuing to board, queuing to disembark, and the time spent at sea. During peak holiday periods, a one-way trip can even take more than 10 hours. Instead of going through all that trouble, it's best to cross the sea first and leave your car in Guangdong. You can use the money saved to take taxis, use ride-hailing services, or rent a car on the island, which will actually provide a better experience. I just saw a video asking whether a budget trip to Sanya would be okay for a family of 3 during Chinese New Year. Honestly, I really don't recommend it. Everyone in the country knows that this is the most expensive time of year in Sanya. Prices in Sanya are already higher than in the rest of Hainan province. Why come here and make things difficult, right? With that money, you'd be better off staying home and enjoying a comfortable and relaxing holiday. If you come and your budget is too tight, you won't be able to afford the food or accommodations you want, and the experience won't be very good. The blogger says that if your budget isn't particularly generous, it's actually quite difficult to have a truly enjoyable time in Sanya. Hainan is a province primarily focused on tourism, and Sanya relies almost entirely on it. There are many attractions, and many of them have entrance fees. If all you can do after arriving is run around on the beach and dig in the sand, that's really not fair. She frankly admits, this might sound harsh, but it's the truth. I sincerely hope everyone will think carefully before making their decision. Here's something funny. A friend of mine went to Sanya before the Lunar New Year and the plane ticket was only $44. When he came back, he told me, "Do you know how much the ticket is now? $1,600. That's a 40-fold increase." Chinese airlines are really playing a game of closing the door to catch a dog these days. They're so good at it, truly trapping the fish in a jar. They've got him cornered, completely annihilated. My advice to anyone planning to travel to these places in the future: what preparations should you make? Pack a tent, just in case you can't get back. At least you'll have a place to stay. I went to Hainan for the Chinese New Year, but I didn't expect it to leave me with so many after effects. When we left Hainan, the ground temperature was around 18 or 19 degrees Celsius. But when we landed in Xi'an, it was only 3 degrees Celsius. It was like going from short sleeves to wearing a down jacket all of a sudden. Secondly, we went from a sky full of cartoonish clouds to a sky filled with thick fog. Thirdly, my rhinitis, which I thought was cured, seems to have flared up again after this trip. The blogger said that every time she walked to the door with short sleeves, a gust of biting cold wind would hit her in the face as soon as she opened it. In that instant, she realized that she was no longer in Hainan, but in Xi'an, where the temperature was only about 3 degrees Celsius. Welcome to Sanya for Chinese New Year, a place you can't leave once you've arrived. Sanya's sky-high airfares have started again. Looking at the prices for the 23rd, 24th, and 25th, flights to Guangzhou are $870, to Shanghai $1,200, and to Hangzhou $1,200. Sanya is here for the Chinese New Year, and you can't go back. It's packed with people everywhere. It's incredibly difficult to find the island through ports like Xuwen, Hainan, and Haikou. If you're driving a gasoline car, it's a little better, but if you're driving an electric car, you simply can't get a ticket. The blogger says that businesses in Hainan mainly rely on the peak season. Many shops lose money during the off-season and only make a profit during peak season, so some businesses raise prices to very high levels. Anyway, he doesn't want to go to Sanya for Chinese New Year at all. There's traffic everywhere. 6 lessons learned from Sanya Spring Festival travel experience this year. First, never drive to Hainan during the Spring Festival. Second, even if you drive, don't drive a new energy vehicle. Third, try to avoid traveling to Sanya during the Spring Festival. Even if you only have time during the holiday, try to go before New Year's Eve or after the 7th day of the Lunar New Year to avoid the peak season. Fourth, always buy round-trip tickets. Fifth, book all hotels you need for your entire trip. Sixth, don't go to Nanshan Temple on the 1st and 5th days of the Lunar New Year. It's deserted on New Year's Eve. Anyone else completely avoided the Sanya Spring Festival travel peak like me? You spent a few hundred RMB on a plane ticket to the island, but then you want to go home, and the price immediately skyrockets to over $1,400. Merchants are ripping you off. A bowl of beef noodles costs $13. They're catching you like a fish in a barrel at the airport. One trick to make a living. It's just after the Lunar New Year, and I saw a post from someone who fled Hainan to Guangdong overnight. He looked so haggard. He's advising ordinary people not to come to Hainan for the New Year. If you don't have much money, you really can't afford it. Before you go, the plane ticket is only a few hundred RMB, but after you land and want to go home, the price has increased tenfold, and you can't even get a train or ferry ticket. Dear bosses, today I have a profound question for you all. Who among you spent the Lunar New Year in Sanya, and who is planning to spend $1,400 on a return ticket? I feel the pressure in 2025 has already been immense, and in 2026, I really ask you all, how much will our monthly income be? And spending $1,400 on a plane ticket, is that really a price that ordinary people can afford? Currently, there is no cross-sea bridge or undersea tunnel between Hainan and Guangdong, so the waterway between Haikou and Xuwen Port in Zhangjiang, Guangdong is the only cross-sea passage between the two places. After Hainan implemented the border closure, the management model between the island and the mainland shifted to a second-line port. Trucks leaving the island must pass through inspection yards, further complicating port passage during the Spring Festival travel rush, when passenger and vehicle traffic overlap. The most painful part of driving through Hainan is definitely taking the ferry across the sea. If there's anything more painful, it's definitely taking an electric car across the ferry. We took the ferry from Hainan at 5:50 p.m. The text message said we could arrive at the port around 3 p.m., so we didn't have much time to explore. We had breakfast at the hotel and slept until noon when we checked out. When we went to the Tesla Center to have our car washed and charged, when we arrived at the port at 3:20 p.m., the staff told us to come back at 3:30 p.m. We entered the port and queued around 4 p.m., waiting until 6:30 p.m. before it was finally our turn to board the ferry. Unlike the double-decker ferry we used when we came to Hainan, this time it was a huge single-decker ferry, and the staff drove our cars in. The blogger said their boat was supposed to depart at 5:50 p.m., but they waited at the dock for over 2 hours until the ferry was completely full of cars and people, then slowly set sail. They felt like every second was an eternity. The boat finally arrived at Xuwen Port in Zhangjiang at 10:30 p.m., turning what should have been a short journey into a 7-hour ordeal. Why take a ferry even when driving to Sanya? Many people have been asking me this question lately. Because you have to cross the Zhangzhou Strait to get to Hainan. The ferry is the only way. Actually, taking the ferry is very simple. You just buy a ticket, go through security, board and disembark. Just a few simple steps. Today, I'll share my ferry experience with you. I bought a car ferry ticket for $54 each, adults $6 and children $3. There are 2 ways to buy tickets, offline or online. I highly recommend buying your tickets in advance online. If you buy them on site, you might have to wait for several hours if there are many people, which is a huge waste of time. New energy vehicles are one of the most prominent challenges for vehicles leaving the island this year. Although the Green Source ferry has been added, which can transport about 5,000 new energy vehicles per day, its capacity remains significantly insufficient to meet the surge in demand during the Spring Festival travel rush.
油车呢随便买票。
If you're driving a gasoline-powered car, you can buy a ticket anytime. If you're driving an electric car, sorry, no tickets available. First of all, the difference in treatment begins at the ticket purchase stage. If you buy tickets on the Changzhou Strait Ferry Butler page, you'll find that this year's car tickets section includes a new energy type option. This option wasn't available when I drove to Hainan last year for Chinese New Year. It must have been added this year. The most outrageous thing is that there are tons of tickets available for gasoline-powered cars. You can buy them anytime tomorrow or the day after, but there isn't a single ticket available for electric vehicles, not even for several days later. Each ferry has a clear limit on the number of new energy vehicles it can carry. The ferry company has not provided a clear explanation for why it treats new energy vehicles differently from gasoline-powered vehicles. However, analysts believe the restrictions are primarily due to concerns about the risk of spontaneous combustion in new energy vehicles. Hence, the more cautious management approach. According to mainland media reports, a woman angrily questioned relevant departments when she called. Is this Haikou or Haikou prison? There are hundreds of tickets for gasoline-powered cars, but not a single one for new energy vehicles. We haven't been able to buy tickets for days. When we arrived at the port, no one told us we might not be able to leave. During the Lunar New Year, are we not even allowed to go home? A blogger posted a video saying, I advise everyone not to come to Hainan during the Spring Festival. It's past 3 a.m. now and I've been through a full 15 hours of travel. I got up at 8:30 a.m. yesterday and the journey from where I started to Hainan New Port is less than 200 kilometers. I was forced to exit the highway halfway there. The drive took about 9 hours, then another 3 hours of waiting in line. On the ferry, from the moment the car disembarked until the moment it was disembarked, it took a total of 4 hours. It's purely paying money to suffer. I've never been this exhausted. I can barely keep my eyes open now. There are people lying around here, all looking tired and exhausted. I advise everyone, if you haven't already come to Hainan, don't join this crowd. I think this experience is enough for me in my lifetime. That's all for today. If you enjoy our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, or share it with a friend. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.